I'm Jason Browning, a data and analytics consultant in the higher education industry. In this module, we'll take a look at how to use Microsoft Excel to work with blank values and transform our data. Excel offers a variety of features and functions to help us find and replace values and make adjustments to our data. One of the most commonly used features of Excel is the Find and Replace function. Using this function, we can search for, or find, specific data in our spreadsheet and replace that data with a specified value. Let's jump into Excel to demonstrate this. For this module, we'll use the file flightdata3.xlsx, which you can download in the exercise files section of the course. On the tab titled Find and Replace, you'll see a simple listing of the 5 busiest flight routes in the United States. Notice that for the departure and arrival airport columns, we've listed the 3-letter airport code instead of the city. Perhaps we want to make this easier for the end user to understand, so we could use Find and Replace to replace these codes with the city names. To access the Find and Replace function, we can use the Edit menu, select Find, and select Replace. We could also select the magnifying glass from the Home ribbon and select Replace from the drop-down menu. In the dialog box that appears, we simply specify the specific string we are looking for and what we would like to replace it with. For example, we could search for the string ATL and replace it with Atlanta. We can then replace all instances of ATL by clicking the Replace All button. We could also replace one instance at a time. Let's click on the cell containing LAX and return to the Replace dialog. Here, we'll tell Excel we want to find the string LAX and replace it with Los Angeles. If we click Replace, it will replace only the first instance. Excel will then move to the next instance. If we want to replace this instance, we just click Replace again. Now, I'll update our report of busiest routes by using the Find and Replace tool to replace MCO with Orlando. We'll go to the Edit menu, select Find, and select Replace. I'll find instances of MCO and replace them all with Orlando. We'll click Replace All to complete this action. I'll also quickly find and replace LAS with Las Vegas, DEN with Denver, SFO with San Francisco, and LGA for New York LaGuardia. In Excel, we'll sometimes encounter data that includes blank cells. These empty cells represent missing or unknown values, and if they are not addressed, they could inadvertently affect the quality of your analysis. We can address these blank data by using the Find Replace function or through the use of an if statement. Let's take a look at each of these methods. First, we'll return to our report of the busiest U.S. flight routes. We can continue using the Find Replace function to update our data. Because any cell that doesn't contain data is blank, we don't want to replace all of our blank cells. So we'll start by selecting our relevant range, in this case cells A3 to C8. Then we'll click the magnifying glass from the Home ribbon and select Replace. In this instance, we won't enter a value in the Find What field. This tells Excel that we only want to find cells that are truly blank. For these blank cells, we'll replace the empty cell with the text string multiple, because these routes have multiple primary operators. We can click Find All to confirm that Excel will only update the one blank cell in our report. We'll click Replace All to complete the transaction, and we can see that the blank cell has been updated to the new value. Now let's move to the second tab in our workbook, titled If Missing. This spreadsheet contains 10 days worth of flight time data for flights between Chicago and New York City. The flight time column shows the duration of these flights in minutes. Notice, however, that we have 2 days with missing data. This is an instance where we may want to estimate our missing values or impute the data. We'll add a column to store our updated flight time and call it Flight Time Cleaned. In this column, we'll use an if statement. Before we do that, though, I want to introduce another Excel function, isBlank. IsBlank tests a cell to see if it is empty or not. In F5, I'll enter the formula equal isBlank and refer to D5, our flight time column. Then I'll use autofill to place this formula on each row. You can see that isBlank returns false when the cell is not blank, but for our two empty rows, isBlank returns true because the cell is blank. Now I'll delete our isBlank work, and we'll get to work on our if statement in the flight time cleaned column. An if statement includes three values: the logical statement, the value to return if the condition is true, and the value to return if the condition is false. For our logical statement, we'll use the isBlank function and refer to the flight time minutes in column D. For our second value, we'll tell Excel that if the isBlank function returns true, we want to use the average flight time from our column as the imputed value. To calculate this, we'll use the average function and apply it to the values in our duration in minutes column. If the isBlank function is false, we just want to use the actual value for the row. With our if statement complete, we can then use autofill and drag it to all the rows of our data. We could now use our cleaned duration column to conduct further analysis. Sometimes our data will include duplicate values. Although at times this may be a desired feature of our data, we often want to retain only unique values. Fortunately, Excel contains a built-in function that allows us to identify and remove duplicate values. When we use the Remove Duplicate Values function, Excel retains the first occurrence of a value in a list and removes any subsequent identical values. Returning to our file flightdata3.xlsx, we will navigate to the third tab titled Duplicate Values. This spreadsheet shows the daily nonstop flight options between Chicago O'Hare and Seattle Tacoma International Airports. Notice on rows 6 and 7 that there is a duplicate entry for United Flight 2220. We'll use this to demonstrate the Remove Duplicates function. Begin by clicking a cell somewhere within the list so that Excel knows what data we want to analyze. Then we can select the Remove Duplicates button on the data ribbon. Now we can specify which columns we want to remove duplicates from. Here, we'll select all columns and click OK. Notice in the dialog box that one duplicate value was found and removed. Also, notice in our list that there is now only one entry for United Flight 2220. Let's say that we were interested in which carriers offered nonstop flights between Chicago and Seattle. We could use Remove Duplicates to find this data. Click the Remove Duplicates button. In this instance, we only want to remove duplicate values from the airline column. When we click OK, we can see that now we only have one entry each for Alaska, American, and United. Note, however, that Excel keeps only the first instance of a value. So in this case, Excel keeps the first flight number listed along with each carrier. This is irrelevant information and potentially incorrect, as each carrier listed operates multiple flight numbers a day between the two airports. Therefore, we would want to delete the flight number column so that our analysis would not be incorrectly interpreted.